This call is now being recorded.
സൗണ്ട് ഓഫ് അല്ലേ? അമ്മേനകത്ത് പിടിക്കും കേട്ടോ. ആള് വരത്തില്ല. അല്ലേ, ഞാനിവിടെ ഓൺലൈനിലാണ് റെക്കോർഡിങ്. Hello, Soumya.
Sir,
Yes.
so shall we
Yeah.
start? The participants are joined. Okay, just a minute, sir. Just a
Let them join. What is the problem?
minute. Okay, okay.
So already Santhosh Kurup has joined.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Suresh Babu. How are you?
Yeah, fine. Hearty welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Lakshmi Miss, we can start now. Okay.
Okay, am I audible?
Yeah, audible.
He who dares to teach must never cease to learn. Very warm good morning to one and all assembled here. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Sree College of Engineering Part 2 for the 5-day online faculty development program, Industrial Revolution 4.0, Emerging Trends in Information Technology. Sri Buddha College of Engineering was established in 2002 by Sri Buddha Educational Society under the leadership of an eminent educationalist, Professor K. Shashikumar. The college envisages the promotion of the society by providing quality education meeting global standards. We stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. In its scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. We do not yet know just how it will unfold, but one thing is clear. The response to it must be integrated and comprehensive, involving all stakeholders of the global polity, from the public and private sectors to academia and civil society. The possibilities of billions of people connected by mobile devices with unprecedented processing power, storage capacity, and access to knowledge are unlimited. And these possibilities will be multiplied by emerging technology breakthroughs in fields such as artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, nanotechnology, biotechnology, storage, and quantum computing, to name a few. As faculty members of computer science and engineering and associated fields, we must be abreast with the cutting edge technologies that evolves as part of Industrial Revolution 4.0. The objective of this FDP is to give a high level intuition into Industrial Revolution 4.0 and the technologies that will emerge as part of it in the IT sector. Here I am, Lakshmi S., Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Sri Buddha College of Engineering, your host for today, welcoming you all to the inaugural session of this FDP. It is part of our tradition to invoke the Almighty at the beginning of an important event. May I request all of you for a moment of silence to invoke the blessings of Almighty. Thank you all. May I now invite Dr. S.V. Anlin Jabba, Head of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, to welcome the gathering.
A very good morning to one and all gathered here. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome all who have joined with us for this inaugural session of the Faculty Development Program organized by Computer Science and Engineering Department of Sri Buddha College of Engineering Part 2 under the title Industrial Revolution 4 Emerging Trends in Information Technology, scheduled between 13 July to 17 July. I am thankful to the management for granting us permission to organize this particular program. So in this occasion, I am delighted to welcome our principal, Dr. S. Suresh Babu sir, for his initiatives, motivation and guidance in organizing this program. On behalf of our department, I welcome you, sir. Next, I would like to welcome our distinguished chief guest and resource person for today's session, Mr. Santhosh Kurup, Chief Executive Officer, ICT Academy of Kerala. Sir, we are happy to have you here. On behalf of our department, I extend my sincere welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, I wish to welcome our coordinators, Ms. Soumya, Ms. Lakshmi, Ms. Rashmi. I appreciate the efforts of the coordinators in making all arrangements to conduct this program in this online mode. Also, I welcome all the faculties of our department for their contribution in organizing this program. I wish to welcome all the participants from different parts of the country for their keen interest in participation. I request all the participants to attend all the sessions of this 5-day program in right spirit. I assure you, this program is delivered by eminent persons from different organizations, and I wish you all a fruitful and unforgettable experience in upcoming few days of this program. I wish you all a joyous online learning. Once again, I welcome you all. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our principal, Dr. S. Babu, has been a constant source of inspiration for all our endeavors. With immense pleasure, let me meet our beloved principal for the presidential address.
Hearty welcome to the participants of the online FDP on Industrial Revolution 4.0, Emerging Trends in Information Technology. So our guest of honor today, Sree Santhosh Kurup, CEO ICT Academy, Government of Kerala, Dr. S.C. Alvin Jeba, HOD of Computer Science of the Sree College of Engineering, our guest speaker, Dr. Kiran B. Nath of NIT Calicut, Dr. Jesu Deva of Anna University, Sri Nitin Prince John of St. Kitts College of Engineering, Sri Graham G. of CUSAT, Mr. Others of Blockchain Academy, IIIT MK Kerala, Sri Jayaraj of the Sree College of Engineering, Sri Siddharth Rajiv, Corn Corporation, Finland, coordinators of the program, Dr. Soumya, Dr. Lakshmi, Dr. Rashmi. More importantly, it is with this background, Sree College of Engineering. So the COVID-19 has taught us to remain in home and do your work. Anywhere, everywhere, we use technology like communication engineering, internet, modern electronic devices to perform our duties. It is learned from media that employees of the IT companies are more busy in home than in office. Technological development only made this possible. Similarly, in education field also, especially in India, we are forced to move on to the online teaching learning process, maybe in the examination also. It is with this background, Sree College of Engineering, Pattur, Alappuzha has tried to hold an FDP in the online mode. I congratulate the delegates and the organizing team of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering of the Sree College of Engineering for initiating such a wonderful program. I wish all success of the program. A special thanks to the resource persons, especially Sri Santhosh Kurup, who has kindly agreed to give the inaugural address in this program. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Today, we have the good fortune of having an eminent personality amongst us to take the inaugural session of this FDP, Introduction to Emerging Trends for Industrial Revolution 4.0. Sree Santhosh Kurup, Chief Executive Officer, ICT Academy of Kerala. ICT Academy of Kerala is a social enterprise that is mandated to provide employability skills to technical, technology, and science institutions in Kerala. Before joining ICT Academy, he was the branch head for TCS Limited in Kochi. With an experience span of all 17 years in ICT industry, he has performed multiple roles both in India and abroad in sales, delivery, and operations. He has worked in Australia, UK, and the US. His skills are in IT outsourcing solutions, sales, customer relationship management, and delivery management. He has been certified in software quality assurance and organizational change management. He also partakes in a lot of training and digital programs both in industry and academic. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, for the session.
Welcome.
Thank you. I hope you are able to hear me and possibly
Yes,
see
sir.
me now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
At the
Sir,
outset,
we can hear you.
yeah. Okay. At the
Okay, sir,
outset,
now we can see you.
yeah. Thank you. At the outset, I just wanted to thank you, Sree College of Engineering and Technology, for inviting me for this very august occasion of an FDP that we are starting off for the next 5 days. It is also interesting to know that you have chosen a topic which is very, very important for the, especially for the current situation and moving forward. So on behalf of ICT Academy of Kerala and on my personal behalf, I just wanted to express my sincere thanks for inviting me here for this this particular FDP in the opening session. I will have a small presentation to share. Let me just go across and try the presentation and give me a sec. You're able to see the presentation? Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
the Google Meet,
Yes, sir.
once I go into a presentation mode, I can't see the people or the chat. So kindly, one of you should give me an input. That is the limitation of this particular technology, but I think otherwise it's all good. So the topic I was given was to talk a bit on the emerging trends in technology area, especially focusing on the Industrial 4.0. In fact, Industry 4.0 itself is an emerging trend because that's the one which is driving the industrial revolution right now we have. I have a few slides and I have kind of organized it in this format. So we'll quickly talk about, I know most of you would already know what is Industrial 4.0, but I will set a context so that the definitions and terminologies are not being misinterpreted. I will then go into talking at a very, very high level, couple of slides on the pace in which technology is spreading and the technology is deepening in its usage. Then we will get into the actual technology trends that has been identified by industry leaders across the world. That seems to be hitting us in the coming years and now. Of course, we cannot ignore the fact that all things have gone into tandem by the fact that we have been hit by a, what the experts call it as a black swan event, the COVID-19. So would like to speak about that a bit on what is its impact on the industry. And there is a slightly offline topic, which I thought one slide where I wanted to also talk about the enhanced role of teachers in this new context. So though it is not per se the topic of reference today, if time permits, I just wanted to talk on that. So that's pretty much I wanted to cover today. So I have a small video to share. This is from World Economic Forum. Since it is only a background music, I don't think the background music comes there. I'm not very sure. In this platform, when we tested before, background music hardly comes. But you will see the pictures. So let me play this. It's around 2 minutes, I think. So. Okay, that was a video from the World Economic Forum, which actually pioneered the concept of Industrial 4.0. In a nutshell, what we just saw was in the early or towards the end of 18th century, beginning of 19th centuries, where the Industrial Revolution picked up, where it was mostly converting the, what do you call it, as the animal force into mechanical force. Most of it were driven by humans or animals in the past for industrial production, which got mechanized as a starting point. And then we moved on to mass production using electricity as the means of fueling the production. In the third industrial revolution, which kind of beginning of the 70th is where 70s of the world is where we started to look at using electronics and IT to further the progress of production, where most of it became a topic of discussion around the efficiency of it, the control of it, the automation of it, and things like that. So that is where it all began. The heavy computerization actually started in the Industrial Revolution 3. And now, today, what we are talking about is about the Industrial Revolution 4, which is essentially a combination of physical and cyber systems, how they interoperate and how we can create useful outcome that can augment human power is what the Industrial Revolution 4.0 talks about. So we'll get into the details of it a little more as we progress, especially when we talk about some of the emerging trends. We'll be able to see what are the kind of technology trends that are augmenting the human power. I think that is the crux of it about the Industrial Revolution 4.0. I just thought I will put up the quote from Mr. Klaus Schwab. He was executive director for the World Economic Forum, and he is considered as the man who kind of popularized the World Industrial Revolution 4.0 through his speeches and books. So I think the quote is there for you to read. I will not read the entire quote of it, but the underlying principle is that the Industrial Revolution 4.0 is slated to challenge the human culture and to an extent the ability of humans or the interoperation of humans with the planet Earth. So it kind of the whole idea of humans itself is going to look very different, is what Klaus Schwab predicted when he was talking about the Industrial Revolution 4.0. I just wanted to move on to the next slide because, as I said, I can't see the chats, etc. I will reserve questions towards the end, but you can always ask questions as we move on into your chat box. I will go and pick it up and try to answer it, okay? Just a perspective of how things have been in the past 100 years plus. If you look at, this is primarily to look at the pace in which the things are moving is what I wanted to show. For example, the landline took almost 50 years to get its first 50 million customers, right? Whereas if you look at the cell phone below that, it just took 12 years to actually do the same thing. It is substantially reducing the overall cycle time for introducing a revolutionary concept or introducing the new products into the market and its subscription, especially products which are linked to technology. The cycle time is very, very less. In fact, the latest was Pokemon. When it was introduced, the first 50 million got signed up in just 19 days. So that is the kind of power of technology and the kind of reach and access technology is providing to the mankind. So the summary of this slide, I just wanted to say that gone are the days where it takes a long time to make a change to happen in the world. Even the generation that we are living in, I'm sure you all interact with the millennials who has the power of openness, flexibility, learning fast, etc. But at the same time, that generation is also a generation which needs instant gratification, restlessness, and quick results, expectations, etc. Right? So that is because they are born in the middle of a revolution where things happen very fast. They don't need to wait and watch and see for things to gradually get into the pace over a couple of generations. This is happening within weeks or within months or within years. So that is the kind of change that is happening, which is impacting the world now, and moving forward, I believe it is going to be the same, especially when it comes to technology-related products and services, right? I just wanted to have another slide which talks about, this was a very interesting slide which gets created every year. This is the slide which I picked up for the year 2020 beginning, which means year 2019. Some summary is what is being put up in the beginning of the year. What happens in the digital world in 60 minutes is what is shown here. So, I mean, most of the products, I'm sure you will be already knowing it, and you would have started using it, or you may be able to see how your kids or your friends are using it, right? Again, I don't need to go over it. Just to pick up a few things. At every 60 seconds, I put it as what happens in 60 minutes. It's actually 60 seconds. It's only 1 minute, right? Within a minute, around 4.7 million videos get viewed in YouTube. And around 19 million texts are being sent across multiple people. So that's what happens in a minute in the world of internet. And it is staggering to look at the kind of data that is being created by internet over a period of time. And of course, there is an interesting thing, which is 1,400 downloads happen every minute in TikTok, which I'm sure is going to go down substantially, because India is one of its largest customer base and TikTok is no more available in India. So what I also wanted to share here is the fact that this much of information or digital input, digital content, digital transactions are being created in the world now. I mean, there was another interesting study which said between the advent of computerization through to the 90s, mid-90s, where computerization became more popular, the amount of data that was created in around 40 years is the kind of data that everybody or the world is creating in just 2 days. So that's the kind of difference of data and the power of data that has come in. So the data is becoming a very, very important element of our life, whether we like it or not. Every day we are churning out a lot of data by ourselves, and we are subscribing to a lot of digital content and digital data. So in essence, it is being again told in the forum that data is the new oil, right? Even during the pandemic season, I remember government was very keen, both central level as well as the state level. Governments are trying to unearth a lot of data, use the data to do a lot of analysis, and also use the data to prevent or to protect its citizens. So the smallest example is we all are being asked by the government of India that we should download an app called Arogya Setu, right? It just produces a lot of data. And if you look at the Arogya Setu now, you can also see whether within the radius of 500 meters, how many people have taken a self-test, whether there are any COVID cases that are available. So it's all about data. Data transition or transmission is what is happening. And through that, the governments are trying to help its citizens, or citizens are trying to help back the governments in even controlling or managing a pandemic situation that we are going through. So I think that is the crux of one of the important aspects of technology. I believe we should take a note of it. Data or digitalization is something that we cannot avoid. In the past, computerization or computer science as a discipline used to be is a support function in industry. It used to be a cost function actually, and it used to be a separate department. Now I think computerization or in technology at large is no more one vertical out there. It spans across industry. It spans from healthcare to manufacturing to telecom to tourism and travel. So I think it is also very, very important as academicians who are mostly part of the computer science arena should understand and realize the responsibility that you have, that you are no more one stream. You are a part of every businesses, every industry domains that is existing in the world right now. I just wanted to now get on to some of the 10 strategic trends that has been identified by actually the Gartner. Gartner is one of the world's leaders in identifying the technology trends. They produce these technology trends every year. And I just wanted to go through this. I'm going to keep this slide for a while because I'm going to quickly talk through some of these points that is put up there. So there are 10 top trends according to Gartner that is going to take its center stage in 2020 and beyond. Mind you, some of these tech trends would have accelerated much faster if not for COVID. But these technology trends still exists and still holds good as trending technologies in year 2020 as well. So some of the things on the left side, what Gartner says is technologies that are people-centric, and on the right side, they have put it as technologies that are related to smart spaces. So in terms of people-centric, let's go one by one. Hyper-automation, for example, is about automation in all frontiers of businesses. So in the past, we used to, even in our regular life, we used to use certain tools and techniques for automating a piece of task. But I think now we are moving into an area where we are trying to see whether automation can happen. Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think there was some background noise, sorry. So the automation has taken a 360-degree view of it, and businesses are looking at automating in multiple frontiers. And some of the tools that are being used or technologies that are being used are artificial intelligence and machine learning. They are bringing in artificial intelligence and machine learning into the automation process. The tools that are being used are robotic process automation, for example, is a new set of tools that are running in automating a lot of repetitive tasks. By adding a bit of an artificial intelligence or ML algorithms on top of it, they are also trying to see if non-repetitive tasks of humans can be actually automated, right? So there is also the intelligent business management software, that is IBPMS, that they talk about, is another industrial tool that is being used to see how automation can be brought in the entire ERP side of the businesses. So it's no more about just automation. I think it is going to be hyper automation, in the sense it is going to be trending very high than it was in the past. In fact, the post-COVID scenario, things are not changing. I will come to that. Just to give you, the automation is going to take a larger play in the post-COVID scenario, because it is also being found that humans cannot actually be safe anymore in walking around or in connecting with other people or in offices or in manufacturing units. So all these technologies are going to play a larger role in the whole process of managing businesses, right? So that is one trend that Gartner says is going to continue. And I feel even now, as we are in the COVID scenario, we don't see any difference in that. The second one is about multi-experience. This is interesting in the sense, in the past, industry used to talk about customer satisfaction, right? Then over a period of time, it moved into customer experience. What's the kind of experience that we give to the customer? For example, when we say customer satisfaction, if you go into, say, repairing your vehicle, if the repair is done well, then you say that, yeah, I'm satisfied with whatever has come through. Now, things have moved where we are talking about more of an experience, where it's not just about repairing, but also about the call that you make, the customer service representatives that they call, and the interactions that you have with the representatives. All that matters. Everywhere, every touch point with an organization does matter. It includes even in the educational institution. It's not just about teaching. It's about the administration process, the ease of processing the fees, the kind of support the institutions gives to its students, the kind of support it offers or mentoring it offers to its parents. All that matters now, right? So that is called, what we call it as the customer experience. Now we are talking the experience into next level by using technology. So that is what is called the multi-experience that we are talking about, where we are talking not just about providing technology to provide high quality services. We are also asking technology to support in other parts of it, where even in the call centers, you have technologies that actually your calls are taken by technology assisted chatbots or AR/VR systems. To, in fact, if you talk about now, we are using manual labels for delivery of food at home. Pizza Hut and others are actually trying in the US using drones. Can they deliver the food? And especially with the time constraints that these kind of food providers have, it makes it clock-like work if the food is delivered using technology. There are tracker applications to make sure that the food is not contaminated on its way. So these are all part of the multi-experience that we are talking about, because we heard of stories about the food being contaminated halfway through. But if there are technologies that will assure you that this is not the case, and you can track it while it is in transit, and it also will give you alarms when it is being tampered. I think that's something which, as a customer, you will love it. So multi-experience is going to be another interesting trend, where the human experience that we gain is being supported by technology. So it can be sensor-based technology, it can be IoT technologies, it can be again automated technologies using AI, ML, etc. So that is something that is coming up in a large way. The third interesting technology trend, what we call it as the democratization of technology. This is going to be extremely interesting. I think I used to quote this as an example. I remember doing a seminar in one of the sessions, and before that I was talking to the principal of that college, and the principal said that, Mr. Santhosh, I have to admit I am a language professor and I can't understand technology, I can't speak technology, so I will only give a very generic introduction about you and then you will have to take it forward. So that was a very candid view of that professor, and I admired his candidness there. But then I said that, sir, do you know what is the mobile phone that you are using? So when I looked at his mobile phone, he is using one of the latest Samsung phone, which has got features which are so good to use and so easy to use. So I was just referring to an example to the professor that when Apple launched its second version of iPhones, there was a study that was conducted by them as an interesting study, and they said that, you know what, the 1960s of NASA, the gyrometers and the other equipments that were there in the labs, which used to be control equipments for the satellites, the miniature version of that is what we are having it in iPhone, right? Even though it was a slight exaggeration, the point what they were trying to say is that in the 60s, when you were to be in NASA to operate these equipments, you need high levels of qualifications and expertise in those engineering domains to be able to operate that. But you don't need any of it to operate your phones. Even now, if you talk about some of the features of the phone, these were stuffs which were very, very difficult to acquire a skill in the past. So what it means is that technologists, like many of us, are constantly striving towards making the technology less and less complicated to the end users. That is what we call it as democratization. So again, we are going to see a huge amount of work that is being done where a non-technologist can actually create a web application without knowing anything about coding, right? There are going to be intelligent systems which will automatically capture your requirements and create applications that will support you. So more and more, you're going to see such, we call it a citizen access phenomenon that is going across the world, and more democratization that is going to happen in the field of technology. Again, as technologists and as academicians, I think you have to be extremely cautious or aware of this scenario. It is not about exposing the complexities of technologies to the end user that will help you anymore. How much of it can be made abstract to the users, and how much of it can be made simpler for users to themselves operate not just the gadgets or the tools, but also create some of the features of the tools based on their needs and demands without knowing technology. I think that is going to be extremely critical for the future, and that's emerging as a trend. The next one, we call it as human augmentation. I think the human augmentation phenomenon has been around for a while now. I think we all know about glasses. I wear a glass which augments my vision. I had a vision problem, so I get to wear glasses. There are support systems to where the people who are having challenges in walking, there are walkers which support the movement of people. So these are all augmentation that we call it. In the newer world, I think the human augmentation is going to be even more. The wearables are coming in big way. Again, thanks to the sensor technologies and data analytics that it supports, and the kind of spectrum that it supports, even though it is not mentioned here, I think the advent of 5G technologies is going to accelerate some of these things that we are talking about, right? So augmentation using technology is going to be fast-tracked in the future. This again, from a COVID perspective, we again estimate that human augmentation technologies are going to be of higher importance in the new normal that we talk about. So instead of glasses, now we have intelligent glasses. So it is not just looking at the looking at or helping the eyes to look at the images in front of it more clearly. But these glasses also have intelligence to find out what are we looking at, and probably helping us with some more augmentation or details as to what we need to look at. So human augmentations include sensor technologies as well as augmented reality technologies, AR, VR, and we are now moving into extended realities, right? XRs. It's a combination of virtual and real world scenarios. So all these technologies in the background is going to create a huge impact or a huge leap in the human augmentation that we are going to talk about. This is going to have a phenomenal assistance to the healthcare professionals and medical practitioners. So I think healthcare is going to use human augmentation in a big way in the coming days. Okay. Now, the next trend, which is on the people-centric side, the fifth trend that I wanted to talk about is about the transparency and traceability. I think transparency and traceability has always been in the picture. So why do we talk about more of it? I think it goes back to one of the slides that I talked about, the world of internet in 60 seconds, right? As humans, you and I think we are touched by, or we are subscribed to internet and the cyber world at least once in a day. So if you look at the subscription pattern of it, around 70% of the Indians are now having one way or the other way an access to the internet, right? It can be through social media, it can be through WhatsApp, it can be through smartphones, or even feature phones which can develop as smartphones thanks to the inventions or innovations from organizations like Geo, right? So we are touched by the cyber world quite often, and it becomes very, very important that the privacy, the data privacy around this is becoming more and more critical for us. We never used to worry about data privacy in the past. If you take 10 years ago, especially in India, we never had a single source of truth. We had multiple identifications for every individual. So it was nearly a mess for us to even track individuals. Now, thanks to various initiatives, one identification through Aadhaar, one ration card coming up, one driving license coming up. So there are a lot of what we call it as consolidation that is happening in identifying the citizens of the country. And that means that we have to be, as technologists, more and more systems are coming on board, and that means that the importance of data privacy, ethics of handling the data is becoming extremely critical. So one of these small examples, I think we have heard once that Facebook was trying some AI algorithms, and it has to shut down because it started picking up signals which are potentially threat to the human being. So what it means that the world of AI or ML, for example, if it is trained with wrong data, for example, how does it affect individuals? It can create wrong output. So and who will you be there to blame? So these are some of the questions that world needs to answer. For another example would be when we talk about autonomous vehicles. Who is responsible for an accident? Will it be the algorithm developer, or the person who is owning the vehicle, or the signals that were coming out? We never know. So there are a lot of dilemma around how to manage the technology of the future and how to create transparency and traceability of the impact of technology in the human life. So that is going to be a huge dilemma that the world is facing, and that is going to continue. And we believe that more and more technologies are going to come up to actually tackle some of these dilemmas that we are talking about, right? So that's pretty much I wanted to cover on the people-centric part of it. 5 trends. The underlying technology, I didn't talk much, but by and large, the underlying technology is about AI, ML, augmented reality, virtual reality, decentralized computing power, and so on and so forth. Which, to an extent, we will talk about it when we look at the right-hand side of it, which is about talking about smart spaces. So we are not only talking about the people around it, people part of it in 2020, but we are also talking about people's interaction with the physical world. And the space that we are going to interact is going to be more smart and more technology enabled. So one of the thing is what we call it as the empowered edge. I'm sure you know what about the edge technologies now. For example, there are, for example, if you take the traffic lights management system, there are technologies that will capture the images. And in the past, the technology architecture was to compile that or transmit that to a centralized server and then manage it there. Now, edge technologies enable the management of such data at the edge itself. Edge means at the very beginning of the technology touch point with the consumer. So when you're talking about traffic lights management, the smart cameras that you are capturing the images itself has got reasonable amount of intelligence, by which it captures it just not transmit every data to a cloud, because it's huge data and transmission takes a long time, and you will not get the right level of intelligence reporting and actions being done on time, because technologies are still not that powerful to transmit the entire traffic information to a centralized server. So edge technologies empower or enable such system problems whereby it does the processing at the edge, and only a metadata or the meta image of, say, set of images goes into the cloud server for the final processing. So that set of technologies which will allow the designers or the developers of the world to create intelligent systems at the edge of the consumer is what we call it as the edge technologies. And that is becoming more and more powerful, be it in healthcare, be it in citizen services, or even industrial production. Systems are becoming more and more edge enabled, and systems are becoming more and more intelligent there. So add the level of intelligence into the edge technologies, and that we call it as empowered edge, because as we progress more into such technology implementation, it becomes more and more critical that such systems are also built in with the level of processing power and the level of empowerment, so that certain decisions can be taken by the systems at the edge itself, rather than pulling it back into the centralized server and trying to process it. So that's another interesting aspect that is coming out. So empowered edge technologies with a level of intelligence is going to gain more traction into it. The next one is about distributed cloud. This is again very, very interesting a trend, because we have, why I feel this is interesting is cloud computing itself was a very interesting, both as a technology as well as a business model. It was a very interesting introduction. So we converted the CapEx model of doing business into an OpEx model of doing business. We converted the unutilization of huge amount of resources or isolated implementation of resources into a utility-based resource power for computing, right? That's at a very high level what cloud computing is all about. So now we are talking about, and cloud is, it used to be, if you talk about Amazon cloud, we used to think that it is lying somewhere in Sahara in huge data centers, and it has got, every day there will be a lot of augmentation that happens into the servers, maintenance, everything will be taken care in one unknown place, and then it gets distributed. That is how cloud computing started. But again, going back to the 60 seconds picture that we saw, with the amount of data that is being created and the amount of applications that we are running over internet and using cloud servers and cloud services, I think it became important for cloud providers not to just be in the central locations, but to start distributing it. So, and it also became, going back to the previous thing about transparency and traceability, governments across the world had a concern that their data is being taken out into a different country where the regulations of that country will come to apply, and hence it may be a threat for their data or their citizens' data. So all these combined, I think the cloud providers have started to look at this in a completely different spectrum. So now we are talking about a distributed cloud. For example, Amazon has cloud instance in India in multiple locations, be it in Bombay, be it in Hyderabad, be it in Bangalore. So even governments are comfortable using those locations. So if you apply for a cloud, you can, as in government, you can ask for an instance in India, right? And if you are hosting something like this, a live interactive session on a regular basis, it becomes important even for the cloud providers to locate that instance very close to the consumer. So if you are in Kerala, the nearest one would be a Hyderabad or a Bangalore. So cloud providers, the latency and the experience and also the accessibility becomes easier if the cloud providers are able to co-locate it as closer to the consumer base. So since the volume is increasing and the world over is moving into cloud-based computing every other day, it became even economically viable for the cloud providers to distribute the cloud. So distributed cloud computing is becoming a major trend for 2020. Again, as computer science professionals, I think distributed networks is always a complex problem to solve. When it comes to cloud, I think it becomes even more complicated to make sure that there is load balancing, there is backups, there is disaster management, disaster recovery, and at the same time making sure that the SLAs are met to the end customers without any impact to their services. So there are technologies, it's mostly networking related and cloud related technologies that needs to be mastered to the next level, so that this is not compromising any of the advantages that cloud computing provides us. The next one is about autonomous things. I think, as the name says, I think we talked about autonomous vehicles in the past, where transportation is becoming automated. Now we are not just talking about vehicles, we are talking about things that becomes autonomous. So again, adding a level of intelligence into your robo, which is going to take the medicines from the pharmacy into the isolation ward in a hospital. If you are able to add a level of intelligence, I think it can navigate. Of course, you will have a kind of supervised algorithm that is built in, but if a level of unsupervised algorithms are also being enabled in the system, then that robot has a better chance of reaching and providing the right level of services to the patients in the isolation ward. So it's no more about one or two items in the world of technology that is getting autonomous. I think many things in the world now is going to become autonomous, where that particular technology module will have the power to take its own call based on the changes in the environmental conditions. So if the ACs were programmed through IoT devices in the past in the home automation system to set to a certain degree, but if it is raining outside, then the local system should be able to understand the temperature difference and then only decide whether the AC should be started or when it has to be started, right? So those kind of decision-making systems has to be brought into play. So you are going to see more and more, of course, the Internet of Things were a big trend in the past. Now I think it is normal. Everything everywhere is getting connected. Internet of Everything has come in. Now, what else we can do to augment the experience or augmentation to the human is what is being taught. So that way, autonomous things are going to be a big trend in the world. The next one is about practical blockchain. I think distributed ledger technologies, or DLTs, has been in the play for a while, and blockchain has been extracted as a major technology innovation in the emerging set of technology trends in the past 3-4 years now. And interestingly, the technology has been on a pilot mode, where a lot of proof of concepts were being tested and a few applications were identified, because there were few reservations about the use of technology, the practical application of the technology, and the cost of operations of the technology. So now I think moving on, we are going to see more and more practical applications of blockchain. That is why we call it as practical blockchain implementation. So far it was mostly POCs and lab experiments, and very little practical applications being found in the world of technology. But I think you're going to see more of practical implementation of DLTs, whether the blockchain as a concept using the current technology backbone will exist as it is. The experts have to say there are a lot of debates around it. They say that DLT as a technology will definitely exist. However, the underlying specifics may change as we see the technology transformation happening. So practical blockchain is another very interesting aspect of it. And I think, again, applications like tracing the quality of your food produce, to tracing the quality of the medical supplies, to tracing the history of a patient record. A lot of applications have been time tested in the proof of concept mode. we believe that there is going to be a few practical applications of blockchain that is going to come in. The next one is about the AI security. Interestingly, the AI security is a combination of how artificial intelligence come into the security domain. So cyber security has been around for a long time, and I think it is becoming more and more prominent as we speak now because of various factors I spoke about. First and foremost is that more and more people are coming onto the internet world. Hence, it becomes very, very critical for anybody to also be putting together security plasters around it so that the data or the identity of individuals or the transactions are not being leaked out. I think as the cyberspace grows up, the cybersecurity domain grows up, it becomes difficult for humans to manage the cybersecurity. So we are going to see, or we are already seeing trends around adding the intelligence into the cybersecurity technology itself, the tools and the warning systems and the technologies around defense systems, or even testing on the offensive side. All these are going to be added with intelligence around it, so that you will start to see more autonomous or automated cyber secured spaces that is going to happen around us. And when we talk about the smart spaces, it becomes even more critical because we are talking about citizen data and the government data around it. So in the field of government, we do feel that AI-enabled cybersecurity and security domains will become more and more prominent, and to avoid that the kind of threats that we see in the future. Okay, so these are at a very, very high level some of the trends Gartner and many others, Deloitte and KPMGs and others of the world has also predicted in that will happen in the year 2020. I did go back to validate some of this in the context of what we are seeing the world spanning out, what we hear from the experts, even though the official records of it will start to come from the next half of it. So probably June is when the half-yearly reports, many of them publishes. But we see that some of these trends, even though it has slowed down a bit because of the low industrial production, but these trends are going to be continuing. In terms of volume, it may be less, but in terms of its acceleration, it is going to be highly accelerated is what we see. So most of these trends that we discussed about is going to continue. So the underlying technologies that I think you're all familiar with, it can be on AI ML, it can be on robotics, it can be on augmented reality or extended reality. It would be on additive printing, which gets automated printing on manufacturing side. It could be on vertical and horizontal integration of manufacturing processes. It can be on simulations using technologies, again, augmentations and other intelligent technologies to actually create what we call it as the digital twins. So the physical world can be actually simulated as it is in the virtual world, and you can simulate the real life situation as it is in the real world more practically than what it was in the past. So the digital twinning of the real world is going to happen through this technology that is going to take a lot of shape in the simulation and design of it. So most of these blockchains that we talked about, sensor technologies, IoT and the edge computing using IoT is something that we talked about. Distributed cloud computing is something that we talked about. So the cloud computing is moving more into distributed computing. IoT is moving more into empowered edge computing. Cyberspace is moving into AI-enabled security space. So most of these underlying technology that has been in the play for the last 3 years is getting combined or converged into purposeful use for the humans is what we are going to see as the top 10 technology trends. Okay, it was a busy slide, and I didn't want to get into the further details by adding more and more slides, but I thought this should suffice. I hope you got a crux of what we are looking at here. Now, I just wanted to move on. This is, it is always funny to also make some humor around some sad incidents that are going around. This was an interesting troll that I picked up. It says, who led the digital transformation in your company? So most of these big industries talks about digital transformation of the era, the disruptions in using technologies and so on and so forth. And typically it is run by a CEO or a CTO, Chief Executive Officers or the Chief Technology Officers. But interestingly, the digital transformation is actually taking place in an accelerated pace. Perhaps the only one good thing that is happening during this crisis is due to COVID-19. So we are going to talk a little bit on that in the coming slides. So very quickly, this is a trend that has been picked up by one of the World Technology Watch organization, Hootsuite, and they have put up this based on the trends that they were seeing from January to March. So it is still an early phenomenon when the COVID hit the people, but I think it still says something very interesting. So these are some of the what we call it as the increased set of activities in the digital space. So we call it as the increased digital activities that has happened due to COVID. Excuse me. So around 57% of people are watching films and streaming contents online nowadays because of COVID, thanks to the work from home or stay at home policies put up by education institutions to companies. There is no way we can go out. So the only hope is to subscribe to some of these digital content. So around more than half percentage increase in the streaming or the entertainment industry that has come in. We are also, I don't want to read through the entire thing. People are spending more time, 50% more people are spending time on social media. People are sending more messages. Again, 46 to 50% of people are sending, additional number of people are sending messages across to their friends and families to be in touch with them. That's the only way to keep in touch. And I think people are using more mobile applications beyond the regular applications that are there, to gaming, to listening to podcasts. And interestingly, even though it was a small number, we see that this is going to increase. 15% say that they are uploading their contents more. But I feel that when the next cycle comes in, at least we are seeing more and more people creating their own contents. We could see people learning dance, to people showcasing their cookery skills, to whatnot. I think a lot of us are actually creating a lot of very, very interesting stuff, digital contents online. So there is an substantial uptick on digital activities and creation of digital contents during the COVID scenario. So we are just going to see in the next one or two slides what are the such things that are happening, or what are the things that are going to get impacted in the post-COVID scenario. Again, nobody can predict when this will end. We are just hoping that it will end soon. Hopefully it will end soon. But some of these industrial trends that we are seeing may also change. But I believe that what we see now is what is being showcased here. No way, if I wish I had the crystal ball where I can predict something about the future, but this is a collection of some of the experiences that are coming from the world. So please take it only in that way. So some of the industrial sectors that we feel will grow positively or neutral. Neutral is something which will remain as it is in the pre-COVID scenario and continue to remain in the post-COVID scenario. So this slide talks about the growth aspects in an industrial arena in the pre-COVID and the post-COVID scenario. So we see that on the positive side, we see that there is a lot of uptick in the pharma industry, healthcare industry, technology industry. We see that technology will be accelerating. Banking and finance, we feel that it is going to stay neutral as it was in the past. It will continue as it is in the future. We don't see much of an uptick. Food industry, we feel that it will remain as it is, even though the online movement or technology-enabled food industry may increase. So, but the overall consumption and the patterns will remain as it is. If not, people will become a little more cautious of only choosing the essential food versus non-essential food. The retail industry may move into an e-tail, where mostly e-commerce related industry will pick it up. The on-foot brick and mortar industry will suffer, but the e-commerce industry will pick it up. So in an essence, we feel that it may remain as it is, because the consumption pattern of individuals may remain as it is what we feel. Insurance is another area which we feel will remain as it is, may not see an uptick or a downtick during this time. Unfortunately, there are certain industries that may go into a negative trend, at least in the short term. In the long term, we cannot predict. So this is in the short and medium trend. maybe in the next 6 to 8 months scenario is what we are talking about. So tourism is going to certainly suffer. So we may not see much of activity around the tourism. Travel and hospitality is going to be another sufferer because tourism is suffering, so travel may suffer. Not just the tourism travel, but also business travel is going to be seriously impacted amongst individuals traveling across for businesses is coming down substantially. The hospitality industry, the the restaurants and the hotel industry is going to suffer because there are no much travel and no much business or tourism that is going to happen. So that industry is going to take a long time. Even though we feel that the food industry associated with the hotel may have a neutral pace. Luxury goods, no, people are surviving. People are struggling for survival. So the money at hand is less, cash at hand is less. The economic activity is going to shrink, or already shown the pattern. India will grow only around 1.5% in the GDP, as against 5.5 to 6.5 in the past years. If that is achievable, that itself is lucky for us. The world across is going to tumble in terms of its GDP growth and economic activity. So cash at hand, liquidity is going to be very, very less, and hence anything to do with luxury is going to be low for people. Oil and gas, again, an industry, as an industry and as a domain, is going to fall. In fact, they predicted that there is a negative growth, right? So more oil storages are there in certain countries which used to provide or produce oil, and in order to retain that storage, they have to expend more. So it is becoming negative growth in the sense that people are, or the countries are, or the producers are required to put in more money to store it and keep it in multiple places, because once the oil industry or oil well is opened up, it cannot be just shut down. So it just keep coming, and you just need to start finding a way to store it. So it's a very, very unfortunately very, very difficult trend for such industry domains. Manufacturing is another area that is predicted to grow low because of the low consumption, because auto industry and other industries have shrunk. So hence the overall manufacturing industry, steel industry, etc., which is a very big consumer for the auto industry, all those things are going down. Having said that, I mean, personally, I feel that there is another trend that may impact this. It can swing either way. Is the fact that there is a lot of nationalistic movement happening across the world, right? Countries are shrinking to itself. There is US to Europe to Asia, every country, even India. We are talking about Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, etc. Primarily on two purposes. One is that the world is shutting down, so expats are moving back to the respective countries. Two, more importantly, the trust factor, especially with China, has been the manufacturing hub. The trust factor is going down, and increasingly there is a feel factor that you should produce on your own. So all this could perhaps, for a country like India, the manufacturing may have an uptick. We never know, because industries moving out of China may have an opportunity to get relocated into India. India has a large market which used to consume manufactured products from outside, may have an uptick because it can get produced locally. So it is something that has to be seen in the long run. But as a trend, manufacturing is going down. Logistics, if manufacturing production is low, then the logistics around it, supply chain logistics, will go down. So the transportation moving around, the supplies or the finished products, both ways is going to be impacted. So the supply chain logistics are going to go down. So these are some of the trends at an industry level that we are seeing. Again, as I said, please take it with a pinch of salt. These are changing substantially as the unfortunate pandemic is panning out. It is still not coming down, so we never know what and how these things will change. But as of now, these are some of the things that are changing. In terms of technology post-COVID, as I said in the past when we were talking about the trends, I think this is going to continue. The digitization of services has been accelerated. Everything has become digital. I think if not for this pandemic, I think this seminar would have happened in a physical hall with all of us sitting in side by side. But that is not the case anymore. So all the services, be it collaboration to education provisioning to telemed or medical subscription to commerce to banking, everything, even government services are moving more and more digital. So the digital services are getting completely transformed, actually disrupted, and you will see more and more services being made available digitally. Contactless technologies and IoT is going to see a huge potential or a huge leap because, as you know, COVID is being a big threat due to contact. So technologies that will help us avoid that contact is going to be of very, very high importance. Technologies that can keep people away from public interaction or enable social distancing is going to be a great opportunity. So contactless technology and IoT, I believe, is going to be of extreme high importance. Robotics and industrial automation is another area. Again, this is again to do with pandemic because you see, even including in small hospitals in Kerala, I was so pleasantly surprised that they have started using robots which can distribute medicine to isolation wards. So such technologies are going to go up even for the elderly support, etc. I think robotics is going to play a huge role. Same with industrial automation, where people-intensive work is going to get more and more automated and to enable people staying away from such exposures. Collaboration technology, what we are doing now is a part of the collaboration technology. So anything to do with collaboration, increased experience on and use case-based models are going to be extremely important. How much of technology intervention can bring in to actually lift services from a physical perspective to a digital services is going to be interesting. So usage of augmented technology is something that is going to get added value onto this along with the collaboration. So internet, data provisioning, spectrum, 5Gs of the world, plus the softwares that are going to run on top of it is going to be a huge potential for us. As we speak, I think Kerala is blessed because there was a national challenge that is happening in creating India's own Zoom equivalent, right? And there is an award for 1 crore, and they have shortlisted the final 3 as we speak now. And one of it is from Kerala. So there's a company called TechGensia. It is working in the Info Park Cherthala. Is one company that is shortlisted amongst to become amongst the top 3. So they're going to do further analysis, and in another couple of months, I think they're going to find a Zoom alternative from India itself, and which will be promoted very high, at least by the governments across the states and at the central government. So anything to do with collaboration technology, as I was saying, is going to be interesting. Education technologies, more and more innovation is going to come into the field of education technologies. Again, how can we effectively improve the distribution of knowledge through a digital platform, and how can we give near real life classroom experience to the students? This is always a big challenge for educators. How can we do assessments online? How can we do practical exams online? All these are going to be problems that needs a lot of complex thinking around to solve such problems. So innovation in the field of education technology, if you are able to bring in something around that as educators, I think that is going to go a big way. Education technology is going to go a big way. Analytics and AI, analytics, as I said in the beginning itself, whether it is COVID or not, whether it is flood or not, whether any disaster, whether anything to do with business, I think analytics using data that is being created is going to be extremely, extremely powerful. And in the 10 trends that I mentioned in the past, I think every trend has got an intelligence added to it. So AI ML is going to be a substantial augmentation to the technology arena that we are talking about. Last but not the least, I think the extended reality domain is going to be extremely important now in the post-COVID scenario. As we said, people wanted to keep its people away from other interactions in the physical world. So the only way to see a near physical world is through augmentation. So augmentation technologies using AR, VR, and XR is going to see a lot of traction in the coming world. So these are some of the I put it as some 6 or 7 technology domains that may see a lot more traction even in the post-COVID scenario. This was one little slide. This is completely off the topic. I will not touch more than that. I just wanted to say, as educators and as teachers, I think your role as a teacher in a classroom needs to be relooked. You don't have a physical classroom anymore. The physical boundaries of an institution is going away. So you should feel that as an opportunity. Your role as a teacher, where students are seeing you in person, they are able to relate to you in person is going away. You are amongst a lot of other channels of learning for students anymore. So I think the role of teachers have to be redefined. Teacher as facilitators are going to take more and more traction in the future. I think innovation is going to be the key for existence in a completely unpredicted world that we are going to live in the future. I don't think anything but creating an innovation culture amongst the student is the only big augmentation that you should give to the students. And in that perspective, I think as a role model, teachers have to be innovators by themselves, not just to show how innovation works, but also to solve some of the real life challenges, even in the field of education that I just mentioned about. Technology everywhere. So teachers have to be on top of it. One of the things that we have seen in the new generation is that they see if you are tech savvy and if you are using the same gadgets or similar apps as a student that they uses, they see you as cool. So the new cool is about how much technology that you are adapting to. So I think if you wanted to be amongst the popular teacher amongst your student, to be a cool teacher amongst your student, I think it is important to learn the disruptions that are happening, especially in the field of technology. I think teachers are going to be a big change agent in the new normal. Things are already changed. There's no more changing. So I believe as educators, people and the citizens trust teachers, their knowledge. So I believe that teacher has to be a change agent where small changes in and around their area should be looked upon. Finally, I think at the end of it, all this put together, you have a very important role in being a nation builder. Not just creating a generation that builds the nation, but you being in the forefront of being a nation builder is something that you need to be aware of. So teachers are going to play a very critical role in the new normal. I feel that that's a great opportunity. You are anyway doing one of the most noble professions in the world. And if your role is getting augmented in the new normal and a new paradigm of respect and dignity is coming for teachers, I think it is up to you for grabs. So that's pretty much I had in my session. I think it is almost 1 hour that I took. I just wanted to thank you for a patient listening. Take care and please follow the government instructions and advisories to stay safe. I just hope that, like all of you, I just hope that this will also pass and we will all have a fantastic years ahead of us. Once again, thank you, Sri Buddha, for calling me for this session, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll have a Q&A session. Those who have any queries for Santhosh sir can post it in the chat. You can also unmute your microphone and ask your queries as well.
All right, looks like there are no questions. Thank you. So passing it back to you, Lakshmi.
Thank you, sir. Now that's the end of our very engaging session, introduction to emerging trends for industrial reform. As always, it's been very enlightening to have listened to you, Santhosh sir. I, on behalf of the entire Department of Computer Science and Engineering, would like to express my sincere gratitude to you for graciously accepting our invitation to engage the opening session of our FDP. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir. Hi all, we have just uploaded a attendance statement in the chat window. Kindly fill in that attendance in the Google form that is in the chat window. You can see the link in the chat window. Try to click on that and put the attendance there, okay? And the recordings will be sent, no problem. We'll be sending it. And also we have the next session by 1:30 p.m. So I will suggest you to be connected by 1:15 so that we can start the session on time. The attendance sheet, we have it in the chat window. You can see the link there, that a Google Doc link on the chat window. You can click on it and can give the attendance there. And also we will put the same link in the WhatsApp group as well.
Once again, the participants are requested to join by 1:15 p.m. for the afternoon session. Once again, thank you participants for your time, your kind attention. Uh, Once again, you are reminded to join by 1:15 p.m. for the next session. Thank you.